Now, before we get into this recipe, this is not a low-fat recipe. This is not low carb. This is not gluten-free. This is not dairy-free. This is not egg-free. This is the antithesis of hyphen-free. So that's it. I mean, I don't know. This is the recipe that you prepare when you just got dumped. This is the recipe you make if your dog died. God forbid the dog should die. I don't want the dog to die. This is the recipe you make when you're feeling sad and you need some comfort food. This is a hug in cheese. This is the recipe that you make when the IRS tells you owe them $5,000. This is not the recipe you make if you're looking to lose some weight. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Marta and I am the chef and author of Sense and Edibility, a site where I teach you everything I know about cooking, baking, and cocktail making. And today's recipe is how to cook my 5-cheese baked macaroni and cheese dish recipe. For a very long time, this was a guarded secret. I didn't share my macaroni and cheese recipe with anybody. Now that I'm writing recipes, everybody has a chance to taste it and to fall in love with it, like many other people have already. What's cool about this recipe, what really makes me feel good inside and gives me warm fuzzies, is that one of my dear friends, Keisha, has 2 6-year-old boys, Carter and Kyrie, who are fans of my macaroni and cheese. Keisha told me that Kyrie especially sits and watches my macaroni and cheese short and we'll just watch it on repeat. So I'm over here like, nah, my best friend, because that's what I call them, they're 6, but they're my best friends. Yeah, my best friend shouldn't have to be watching a 1 minute or less video about my macaroni and cheese, because Carter and Kyrie love my macaroni and cheese. I have made an entire video so that they can watch it to their heart's content. Hi, best friends. Everybody say hi in the comments below to Carter and Kyrie. Hi. Okay, what is so special about my 5-cheese baked macaroni and cheese? If you haven't heard, there's 5 cheeses in it. That alone should be cause for pause in how amazing this recipe is. But not only does it have 5 different cheeses, it is completely made from scratch, and it also has delicious spices that combine with the cheeses to make an epic recipe. This recipe is a huge favorite of my daughter's. She will choose to have another portion of this over dessert. So that should say a lot. I want to share this recipe with you. But before we get into the video, I would love it if you would click subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to sign up for notifications so that you can get notified every time I post a new epic video like this one. For those of you who are, let's get into the video. The very first thing you should do is set 8 cups of water to boil over medium-high heat. And while that's getting started, take some of the butter from the recipe and use it to grease a 9 by 13 by 3 inch deep baking dish. Greasing the pan makes cleaning it up a lot easier. Set the baking dish to the side and let's talk cheese. Again, this is a 5-cheese mac and cheese, and I use smoked Gruyere for gooiness. I also use a Colby Jack, which is a neutral tasting cheese, but it does give the mac and cheese some color. In addition to that, I also use smoked Gouda, and I also use extra sharp cheddar cheese. This is a white cheddar cheese, and American cheese or Velveeta. This is what you need to emulsify your mac and cheese to make it nice and creamy. Yeah, so those are my cheeses, and what I'm going to do is hand shred them, and I strongly encourage you to do so too. Can we just take a minute to appreciate my mother's old shredder? Look at this. I mean, you know it's old when it has the little fruits on the handle. Anyways, get a separate bowl because we're going to separate these cheeses. We're not going to shred them all and keep them all together. If you have a box grater, you want to use the medium holes, not the very small holes, because that's not going to melt the cheese in the right way, and the cheese is likely to dry up as it bakes. So after you shred each block of cheese, I want you to take half a cup of the shredded cheese and separate it into that bowl that we have on the left-hand side. This is going to be the topping for our mac and cheese. You can continue to shred your cheeses into the same bowl without removing the cheese like I'm doing. If you are very careful to remove half a cup of the cheese that you are shredding on top of the other cheeses. Hopefully that makes sense. Just continue to shred the remaining blocks of cheese into the bowl, separating half a cup of each of the cheeses. The final cheese you're going to shred is the American or Velveeta cheese. Now, I save this for last because as you can see, it gets very messy. And I'm also not separating half a cup of this cheese. All of this cheese is going to go into the rest of the cheese mixture, which we're going to mix into the pasta. So go ahead and just toss all the cheeses together to combine them into a cheese blend. All right. Set this bowl to the side because what we're going to do now is we're going to combine one large egg. We're going to whisk it gently, just a light beat. It doesn't need to be super smooth. And then to that, we're going to add our evaporated milk, followed by seasoned salt, granulated garlic powder, onion powder, ground mustard, black pepper, and cayenne pepper, which is optional. Whisk these all together until well combined. And then by now your water should be boiling. Now, when you add salt to boiling water, be careful not to dump it in because it'll cause it to boil over in the pot. Add your macaroni, your elbow macaroni to the pot and give it a stir immediately after adding it so it doesn't clump together. Boil this for about 10 minutes. And what you want is your noodles to look nice and fat. Drain this in a colander and return it to that hot pot so that the water that's left in the macaroni can start evaporating. Turn your stove to low heat so that you can continue steaming out that water and add the butter. What you want to do is coat the noodles in the butter. Go ahead and remove this from the stove. And you're going to give it another stir and add your evaporated milk spice mixture. Give it a good whisk to reincorporate the spices that probably have settled at the bottom. Just stir this into the macaroni. And then you're going to add all of the cheese, the bulk of the cheese. Leave that separated cheese to the side for topping later. Stir it all in until it's mostly combined. The cheese is not going to melt completely at this point. Scoop it into your prepared baking dish. And what you want to do is as you're adding the mac to the baking dish, press it down because you want it slightly compacted. Now you want to mix up your separated cheeses to create an even blend and sprinkle this on top of the macaroni in the baking dish. Make sure everything's nice and even and there's no parts that don't have cheese on it. I usually press it down to make sure that it's nice and compacted in the pan. Grab a sheet of heavy duty aluminum foil and spray it with cooking spray. This will keep the foil from sticking to the cheese and taking off half of the cheese topping when you remove it later. Cover it tightly and you want to bake this in a 350 degree oven, 177 degrees Celsius, on a sheet pan just in case you have some spills. After 30 minutes of baking, remove the foil from the top and return the pan to the oven. Bake it for another 30 minutes until it's nice and brown and bubbly. And this is what you want your 5-cheese baked mac and cheese to look like when it's done. Allow it to cool for about 10 minutes and then you can serve it and enjoy it. Look how creamy. It was hot. The shirt says it all. This is all I'm here for. Let me answer some frequently asked questions I get about this 5-cheese macaroni and cheese. If you visit my site often, you've probably already seen this 5-cheese macaroni and cheese. I have changed the recipe. The only thing I did different was I omitted the chev or the goat cheese that was in the original recipe because people were saying the dish itself was too expensive and some people didn't have access to goat cheese in their market. I grew up with food insecurities. I am not one to ever make a recipe or create a recipe that is inaccessible to people. So if you have made the macaroni and cheese with the goat cheese, the recipe is still on the site. It is located in the notes section of the recipe card, but I want to be a recipe developer who meets people where they're at financially because I believe everybody should have access to amazing recipes. So I altered it a little bit, still amazing. Doesn't have the tang from the goat cheese, but still has the tang from the extra sharp cheddar cheese. You're not missing out on anything. And if you want to add the goat cheese to it, go ahead and add it. I mean, you do you. But yeah, so that's why the recipe will look different to people who have been making this recipe for a few years. There are a variety of cheeses that you can use in place of the cheeses that are called for in the recipes. When it comes to the extra sharp cheddar, I use that because it gives tang back here in the back of your jaw when you eat it. It adds a level of interest flavor-wise. But if you can't find extra sharp cheddar cheese, you can always replace it with sharp cheddar, mild cheddar. I don't know if there's a regular cheddar. I think they all have titles, but you know, a regular cheddar. You can also use different types of English cheddars. There's a few that are super tangy on the palate. I would ask your local cheese counter, you know, what is the equivalent of extra sharp cheddar and have them guide you to a replacement. You want something that is sharp because that's what's going to give you the contrast of flavors in this mac and cheese. There's no point in making a 5-cheese mac and cheese if all the cheeses taste the same. That defeats the purpose. For the Colby Jack, you can replace it with Colby or Monterey Jack cheese. You can also replace it with Monterey or Pepper Jack cheese. Another mild-ish replacement for Colby Jack, you can use mozzarella, Swiss, Edam cheese. If you want to replace the smoked Gouda, you can replace it with regular Gouda. Emmentaler cheese, you can replace this with the Gouda with Swiss or mozzarella, and that's it. That's all I'm thinking. Yeah. Okay. Or Munster. You can also replace it with Munster cheese. You can replace smoked Gruyere with regular Gruyere. More Gouda, more Emmentaler, mozzarella, or Swiss. Here is the big scandal, the big drama, the big, oh, I know she didn't. Velveeta cheese, right? Like I said in the video, Velveeta's main ingredient is American cheese. American cheese is used because it has melty qualities. I don't think melty is a word, but melty qualities. So it gives your mac and cheese that creaminess that you want. You don't want your mac and cheese to be super curdled. So if American cheese is the #1 ingredient in Velveeta, and we use Velveeta for Rotel dip, we use Velveeta for, you know, nacho cheese. Listen, I'm bougie when it comes to my recipes, right? I understand that. But there are some times where I got to go back to my roots. And my roots say that adding Velveeta cheese is not a crime. There's nothing to be ashamed of. You do you and have the best mac and cheese at the potluck or at the family dinner, and let other people stay stuck on that trip that I'm not using Velveeta ever. Okay, that's fine. Good for you. I am. If you can't find American cheese, use Velveeta. If you use American cheese, great. If you use Velveeta, that's okay too. Just live and let live. So yeah, that's what I got to say about that. Just because it is called mac and cheese doesn't mean you have to use elbow macaroni. Mark my words, come the week before Thanksgiving, you're not gonna find elbow macaroni on the shelves because people run through that grocery store and buy up all the macaroni. I know this for a fact. That's why I kind of stockpile elbow macaroni right before Thanksgiving, but that's neither here nor there. If you can't find large elbow macaroni in your grocery store, you can replace elbow macaroni with cavatappi, ziti, penne, rigatoni, corkscrews, and that's about it. Yeah, what you want is to replace it with a similar pasta. So something that is tube-like, not too big. You don't want to replace it with manicotti or something like that. That's way too big. Something that is tube-like, something that cheese sauce can seep into the tube so that when you bite into the noodle, the pasta, it kind of surprises you with a little gush of cheese. That's what you want. Don't be stuck on, I have to use elbow macaroni because it's a macaroni and cheese. Just use what you can get. All right? Use what's on sale. Don't trip. Don't trip. Use something that is similar. Use the same amount, 16 ounces, 1 pound, and that's that. Okay? Okay. A lot of people think that I'm tripping when I say do not use the bag shredded cheese, and I'm not tripping. If you look at the ingredients label on those bags of pre-shredded cheese, they have what is called an anti-caking agent. That keeps the cheese from clumping up together in the bag, you getting upset, going back to the grocery store talking about, I want to see a manager because this is, why we don't want to use that in our macaroni and cheese is because it also keeps the cheese from going gooey, which is what we want. When you shred your own cheese at home, you have control over the size of the shred. You also have the ability, it also creates a cheese that melts properly. It's not coated in this floury substance that keeps it from melting properly. What if you have dexterity issues and you can't shred your cheese and you don't have a child that you can tell, hey, go shred this cheese or you're not getting no mac and cheese like I do. If you have, dexterity issues and you can't shred cheese, you can buy the shredded cheese in the bag. But what I want you to do is rinse it in cold water. I know this sounds crazy. Rinse the cheese in cold water to remove some of that anti-caking agent and just dry it, let it dry in the colander in the sink so that, you're not adding water to your mac and cheese. But if you have the ability to shred your own cheese or you have somebody that can help you shred the cheese, I highly recommend you shredding the cheese for that very reason. That's the way you get a nice, creamy macaroni and cheese. I always use evaporated milk to make my macaroni and cheese because evaporated milk is whole milk that has been boiled down to remove as much water as possible. Water and fat, which cheese has fat and butter has fat, the more imbalanced the ratio of water to fat is, the more likely your macaroni and cheese is to curdle. I hope that made sense because I said that really fast and I think I'm confused. Okay, so yeah. When you remove as much water as possible from the equation, you don't have to worry so much about your mac and cheese curdling. So that's why I use evaporated milk. Plus, it also tastes creamier. Evaporated milk just tastes better than whole milk. But if you don't have evaporated milk, you can always replace it with whole milk, the same amount of whole milk. You may run the risk of it being a little bit grainy, but it'll still taste amazing. Do not replace your evaporated milk with cream or buttermilk or anything like that. You want to use either whole milk. You could get away with half and half, but then you're adding more fat. So I'm not going to judge you, but I strongly recommend whole milk. This isn't a recipe that I would use plant-based milk in. I mean, because really there's nothing else that's plant-based. So it's all dairy and egg. So yeah. So don't use plant-based milk. Just go ahead and use either evaporated milk or whole milk. You absolutely can make this ahead up to 24 hours in advance. Just prepare it with the shredded cheese, mix it all together, put it in your pan, cover it with the greased foil, and then store it in the refrigerator. You could also wrap it, I would pack it into a disposable aluminum tray or something that is freezer safe. Wrap it in 2 layers of plastic film and a layer of heavy duty aluminum foil and freeze it for up to 6 months. But if you just want to store it because you have a party or holiday dinner coming up and you want to get your prep done before, go ahead, wrap it, put it in the refrigerator, and then the day of, you can just toss it into the oven to bake. Now, if you have assembled or put your macaroni and cheese in a ceramic or glass dish, you have to bring it out of the refrigerator 30 minutes before you plan to bake it, because if you put an ice cold ceramic or glass dish into a 350 degree, 177 degrees Celsius oven, it's going to shatter. You're going to lose all of your mac and cheese. You're going to blame me. I'm going to tell you I told you so, and we're going to have a problem. All right. If it's in a glass or ceramic dish, pull it out of the refrigerator, allow it to warm up to room temperature for 30 minutes while the oven's heating up, and then you can go in there and put it in there safely. If you've frozen your mac and cheese, you want to thaw it for at least 48 hours because it's so compacted that even 24 hours of thawing it may still leave it frozen in the center. So pull it out 48 hours before you plan to bake it. And then pull it out, thaw it 48 hours before you plan to bake it, but pull it out of the fridge 30 minutes before you plan to bake the dish. Another thing, I used to make this all the time for fellow military spouses whose spouses were deployed, or if they just had a baby, or if they, just had surgery. This is a great gift to somebody who's maybe new to the neighborhood, if you know that they're not lactose intolerant or gluten-free. Yeah, just ask. But it's a great gift for new parents, recovering from surgery. It's just a great gift to give people. So that's something to consider. Usually if I have a lot left over, I just wrap the pan in foil or plastic wrap, and then I store it in the fridge for up to 3 days. If I just have a little, you can always transfer it to a different container and do the same thing. Airtight is important. Airtight containers keep it from, getting too hard, the pasta from getting too hard. To reheat your mac and cheese, all you need to do is pop it into the microwave for about a minute, minute and a half, stir it. If you find that it's a little curdled, add a little bit of whole milk to the bowl, stir it in, microwave it, heat it up, and it should be nice and smooth again. Yeah. Store it in the fridge for up to 3 days after you've baked it. You can go up to 5 days. 3 days, what the FDA wants me to tell you, so I'm going to tell you that. Not the FDA, the USDA? Whoever. Yeah. Okay, so this is my 5-cheese baked macaroni and cheese recipe. You can find the full recipe on my site, senseandedibility.com, where I also share entrees to share this with, or if you want to eat it by yourself, then you do you. I'm proud of you for doing that. Don't forget to drop a hi to my best friends, Carter and Kyrie, who inspired me to create this video And also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel because they help motivate me to continue doing this all by myself. Also, sign up for notifications so that you can get notified every time a new video comes up. And don't forget to share this with your friends and family. Let them, see what you're into. In the meantime, stay tuned. I probably have some outtakes because you know how I am. But thanks so much for watching. I hope you love this mac and cheese as much as me and my family do and all my friends. I'm going to link the ingredients and the full recipe link down below in the description box. Also, I'm going to link some of the equipment that I use. Not my mom's grater because that's like really, really old and I don't think you can get it anymore. And I would love it if you would drop a comment below to let me know what you think of this recipe if you make it. Until our next video, I thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being a part of my community, and I will see you on the next video. Bye. It still has the tang from the extra sharp cheddar, but still has the tang from the extra sharp cheddar. Just realizing mac and cheese hasn't been even in the shot. All right, I gotta move this so that you can actually see. I want you to like lust over it while I'm sitting here answering questions. 2 layers of plastic film and then a layer of plastic. Drop a comment